What's going on, guys? Happy Saturday. Now, listen, I got some must starts here for you at each position, some updated news and notes here on injuries, who to start, who to sit, everything here laid out for you guys here on Saturday. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. We go absolutely year round, okay? So make sure you guys are subscribed. Out here wearing the vintage counselor shirt out here on Saturday morning here. And I'm going to give you guys some information here. So make sure you guys are ready for NFL. Can you believe it? Week 11 is here. I can't believe it, guys. So I've got everything here, all the notes here, all the injuries. Subscribe, thumbs up, drop some questions. I'll try to get to as many as I humanly possibly can. And I also got a brand new show called Joe Camo Show. I've linked it below here on YouTube, or simply search Joe Camo. Guys, I'm doing some amazing interviews there. Make sure you guys do check it out. The Joe Camo Show. I've linked it here below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to that. Amazing interviews, sports interviews. I'm shifting gears. I'm still going to be doing fantasy, but I'm also going to be doing that as well, okay? Joe Camo Show, amazing truth to sports interviews. I've linked it below. All right, let's talk about some starts and sits and some must starts. But before we do that, let's go over some news here. I mean, this guy, what a bomb. Dameon Pierce is going to be out. His ankle ruled out for week 11. That's the thing, man. You're young, you're dynamic. Now's your chance to prove it, and you can't even stay healthy. You should be ashamed of yourself. Singletary's in for a good matchup, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? Pat Freiermuth was dealing with a hamstring. He's expected to be activated. That's good news here. Also, Joe Burrow out for the season, as you guys know. I don't need to go over that. Torn ligament in thumb. What a waste. What a bum. This is a guy that honestly, $55 million a year, 275. I don't know how many bazillion dollars they paid him, but can't even stay healthy. He was crappy at the beginning of the season, crappy midseason. Now he's out, right? Total crap, right? Him and Watson, what a waste of money for these guys. Absolute waste, right? Keenan Allen, his shoulder was bothering him. Apparently, he practiced fully. That sucks. I want Quentin Johnson to get the volume there. Devin Achane was limited, but he's expected to be back in week 11. He's activated off IR. A lot of people thinking of starting him. Very viable if you don't have a better option, but definitely worth starting. Mostert's going to get his work as well. It's going to open things up there as well. Schultz had a hamstring thing, but he's not on the injury report as well. Nico Collins fully participated. He missed some time. That's going to suck because, again, we wanted Tank Dell to get more of that volume. Noah Brown should see a dip now. Apparently, he's questionable, too, with a knee. He came out last week, had a good week, but Nico should be the guy ahead of him in the pecking order for sure, okay? So that's just some updates here. Matt Stafford also fully participated. He's in the lineup now. That should give Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua a bit of a boost. I think Garrett Wilson was questionable as well. Be careful there. Make sure you guys do check your player last minute notes, run a quick Google search, and check the news on those players, okay? Let's talk about each position here, starting off with the quarterback. Who are the optimal starts at each position? Now, again, when you are looking at starts and sits, you always want to make sure that you are starting the guy that's been consistent. But this is going to help you guys be aware. So if you got two quarterbacks, you're deciding on which one. This may sway you because this quarterback has a good matchup, this quarterback has a bad matchup. If I don't mention them here, they got a mid-range matchup, okay? The guys that have good matchups, Tommy DeVito. Now, I'm not starting Tommy DeVito, but he does have a great matchup versus Washington. Jordan Love versus the Chargers. Pat Mahomes, great matchup versus Philly. Jared Goff, love him. If you got him, you got to start him. Will Levis, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Aiden O'Connell, which I won't be starting, does have actually a good matchup versus Miami. Joshua Dobbs versus Denver, great matchup as well, okay? Those are your good matchups. Now, who's got it in tough? I'm not saying bench these guys, but Justin Herbert does have it in tough versus Green Bay. Josh Allen, they fired their offensive coordinator. Josh Allen should get an improvement this week and a bounce back. He threw a couple picks last week. That should get better this week if you're a Josh Allen owner. I wouldn't hesitate starting him. Now, if you have like a Jared Goff or a Josh Allen on your team for some reason, Goff does have a better matchup. That's why I'm making you guys aware of the other guys that have good matchups. Jalen Hurts, tough matchup versus position, but you're not going to sit him. Dak Prescott coming off a massive week, does have the 8th hardest matchup versus position versus Carolina. Again, you're not sitting, Dak Prescott unless you have a better option, okay? Trevor Lawrence coming off a terrible week, does have a tough matchup. So does Zach Wilson versus Buffalo, okay? So just be aware. Kenny Pickett, Baker Mayfield as well. Very tough matchups. Baker Mayfield playing San Fran. Be aware of this. It's about raising awareness. Again, drop your questions below if you got them. and I'll try to get to as many as I humanly possibly can prior to the game time, okay? Madison, Ty Chandler. A lot of people ask me a Ty Chandler. I would definitely consider starting him if you don't have a better option. He does have a fabulous matchup versus Denver. Amazing matchup, okay? So he should run wild there. Madison, I don't know what's going on with him. I have no Madison stock. He's boring as they come. Chandler seems to be kind of stepping up there. He's kind of used to wow me. I'm not wowed as well. But anyway, either way, if you guys are thinking Chandler, does have a good matchup. Rico Dowell, I would definitely start him. He's been kind of stepping up there. Tony Pollard sucks, and he's been a massive bust. And again, I talked about not drafting Tony Pollard. He's not a true workhorse running back. Sure enough, he's been absolutely busting. 6 points, 9 points, and 7 points the past 3 weeks consecutively. Rico Dowell, out of all people, has been stepping up. Unfortunately, my bench stash, Deuce Vaughn, didn't step up, but it is what it is. All I knew is that you shouldn't be wasting a first-round pick on Tony Pollard. Unfortunately, it wasn't Deuce Vaughn that benefited from that. Devin Singletary is a start coming off a hot week and a great matchup versus Arizona. Brian Robinson Jr. must start here. Darrell Henderson, Royce Freeman. I would say Henderson probably slightly ahead of Royce Freeman. Good matchup. Raheem Mostert, Achane, great matchup. They're playing Vegas. Eckler, great matchup versus Green Bay. Aaron Jones in a good matchup, and A.J. Dillon. I mean, they're a bit of a crapshoot this year, but they do have a good matchup versus the Chargers. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt should be getting a timeshare. Jerome Ford slightly gets an edge. I mean, he does have a good matchup versus position. I would start him. Breece Hall, great matchup. And James Conner, also a great matchup. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Going to be interesting. Good matchup, but it's going to be interesting to see how much split they're going to get. I'm assuming David Montgomery is going to start. He had that lucky breakout run. Jahmyr Gibbs is the better out of the back. I want to see a lot of volume for Jahmyr Gibbs, and I want to see David Montgomery on the bench as much as possible. Tougher matchups at the running back position. Isaiah Pacheco, tougher matchup. Christian McCaffrey, tougher matchup. Rachaad White, who's been hot the past 3 weeks, you got to start him, but he does have a tougher matchup versus San Fran. You need to be aware of that. Rashad Johnson here, and any running back here from Chicago versus Detroit, tougher matchup versus position. So him and Foreman, I'd probably start Foreman over him. But again, a little bit of a tougher matchup versus position. Javonte Williams, 7 hardest matchup versus position versus Minnesota. But you can't sit him. He got a touchdown last week. Getting involved a little bit in the receiving game. Getting involved over 20 plus attempts in the running game. So Javonte finally getting some work as Denver is starting to heat up, believe it or not, this season. Derrick Henry, tough matchup as well. Again, these are tougher matchups. Derrick Henry, I would still start him. You can't sit Derrick Henry. Najee Harris, who's been safe, boring at best. Jaylen Warren seems to be the guy. So they do have the 9th hardest matchup versus position versus Cleveland. Be aware of that if you're considering starting either one of them. And Travis Etienne, who was ice cold last week, does have the 11th hardest matchup versus position this week. So be aware of that as well. And Miles Sanders and Chuba, also tough matchups. Like I said, if I didn't mention them, a guy like Josh Jacobs, for example, Saquon Barkley, didn't mention them. All mid-range matchups on difficulty rating versus position, okay? Let's go through the wide receiver position here. Again, drop some questions below. I'll try to get to as many as I can. Wide receivers, I love Rashee Rice's matchup this week versus KC. Great matchup. Who else we got here? We got Jalen Dotson. A lot of people asking about him. Good matchup this week. These are all good matchups. Terry McLaurin, good matchup. Brandon Ayuk, great matchup versus Tampa Bay. San Fran and Tampa Bay. Christian Watson, he's been very inconsistent. I'd probably start Dobbs over him. But again, when you're looking at the Packers wide receiver core, it's very touchdown dependent. It looks like Watson is kind of like the target leader, but it depends on who gets the touchdown, whether it be Reed, whether it be Dobbs, whether it be Watson. It's a bit of a crapshoot there. Let's keep going here. Amari Cooper's got a good matchup, but then you got a different quarterback. I think it's Walker starting. So you got some question marks there. Sutton's as consistent as they come. Great matchup. You want to start Sutton. I like him over Judy for sure. Hopkins and Levis, they do have a good matchup. Are they going to go back to the debut of Will Levis, that big game? Could that be possible? Sure. I mean, it is a great matchup versus Hopkins. I do like him this week. Mike Evans, good matchup as well. You can't sit a guy who's been consistent. And Devontae Adams had a decent week last week, been very inconsistent, has a decent matchup this week. Tougher matchups here, guys. And again, make sure you drop your questions below and I'll get to the defenses. Tougher matchups versus position. Am I saying bench these guys? No, but I'm saying be aware if you got someone else to start and sit, you want to do that. But Gabe Davis versus the Jets, tough matchup versus position. Be aware of that. Deontay Johnson, you can't sit him. He is the workhorse guy, or the wide receiver one, I should say. Had a bad week last week, but prior to that, good weeks. But Deontay Johnson, third hardest matchup versus position against Cleveland secondary there. It's going to be a little bit of a tough matchup. Keenan Allen, tough matchup, dealing with that shoulder injury. Quentin Johnson, it depends on who else is out on the field there. Jalen Guyton's getting his work. The tight ends are getting their work. I don't see him getting a lot of volume, but things could be changing after the touchdown last week. We don't know. But he does have the fourth hardest matchup versus position versus Green Bay due to the Chargers wide receivers. Be aware of that. Brandon Cooks coming off a hot week. A lot of people are excited to start him. He was relatively inconsistent throughout the year. Had a big week last week. They're very touchdown dependent. It was a big week for Dak, but he is playing Carolina secondary. A little tougher matchup versus position. But him and CeeDee Lamb, I mean, how do you sit those guys coming off these great weeks as of late, right? Tyreek Hill, also tough matchup versus position. Just be aware of that. You're not going to sit Tyreek, but just be aware it is on paper a tougher matchup. Also, Seattle Seahawks wide receivers have it a little bit tough versus the Rams, okay? So again, it's about being aware, guys, making the right decision, but make sure you guys are starting the guys that have been consistent. Take a look at volume, take a look at distribution, take a look at how often they're getting the ball, take a look at consistency. These are all things you want to gauge. Now, some people ask me, if I'm torn between this guy and that guy, who do I start? I go back 3 weeks as a kind of a pinpoint, something I can monitor on. I go back 3 weeks, I take a look at who's been more consistent, and at the end of the day, also take a look at matchup as well. But at the end of the day, I take a look and I go with the gut feeling. If I'm absolutely torn, it's like A or B, and it's like same situation. Your gut feeling will help you get through it because that plays a big part of fantasy. Your gut feeling, believe it or not. Some people say, "Oh, it's all stats." It's not all stats. It is a lot of luck. It is a lot of gut feeling. So be aware of that. Okay. Tight ends again. I don't care if I sound like a broken record. Start your tight end that's been getting you 10 points every single week. I am not sitting at all, ever, Laporta. He doesn't sit for me. I just start him. I get my 10 points. I'm a happy person. But guys that have a good matchup, Hawkinson's got a good matchup. Musgrave's got a good matchup. Kelsey's got a good matchup. Dalton Kincaid, love him this week. Great matchup. Cole Kmet, great matchup. Trey McBride, great matchup. So those are some guys just, again, to reassure your start because you're considering starting them. Start them, man. I mean, I don't care. I'm still starting Laporta. No matter what matchup he has every single week, you should as well if you got him. Cade Auden, tough matchup, just to note here. Jake Ferguson, you're still going to start him. He's consistent. He does have the 7th hardest matchup versus position, but again, you got to start him. Logan Thomas, 10th hardest matchup versus position. The Giants tend to play tight ends a little tighter. He's been safe. He's been solid. If you got Logan Thomas, I mean, you still got to start him. Doesn't matter, right? Tyler Conklin, tough matchup as well. Kittle mid-range matchup and Laporta mid-range matchup, but I'm going to go ahead and start them if I've got those guys. Defenses to stream here, guys. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard. Sometimes you got good defenses to stream. Sometimes you just got to go with a defense that you drafted that's been, a top defense. But, Commanders versus the Giants, great matchup if you can get them. I do like the Lions this week against Chicago. That's a must-start defense as well. Cowboys versus Carolina, but they're probably an own team. The Giants versus Washington, you never know. Texans versus Arizona could be a viable start. But again, that's, the way that my algorithm here works is based on, without Kyler Murray. It kind of bases it on the season here. So I'm assuming Arizona, does better against Houston, but on paper, based on the year, Houston does have a good matchup. Vikings at Denver could be viable as well. I'm taking a look at some other things here. Rams versus Seattle if you need to stream. But again, it's tight. Maybe, just maybe the Packers versus the Chargers. But again, it depends on what type of Justin Herbert you're going to get. So again, guys, drop your questions below. I'll get to as many as I humanly possibly can. Smash thumbs up really helps the channel. And those are some must-starts here for you for, can you believe it or not, NFL Week 11. Hopefully this helps you guys. I know it will. And again, there's also some breaking news last minute. So make sure you guys monitor who's starting, who's sitting prior to the game. But this video is going to give you guys a kind of a good overview and get you guys prepped for NFL Week 11. It is so important that you guys win. I'm sure it is at this point late in the game. You got to pull off a win. You got to pull off a win at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. It doesn't matter. But Week 11 can be crucial in regards to playoff chances for a lot of people. So make sure you guys do start and sit the right people. Drop your questions below. I'll try to help as many as I possibly can. All right? We'll talk soon, guys. Go follow the brand new Joe Camo Show. Linked it below. I'm out.